Slowdive is a band with a sound and history unlike any other. Formed in Reading just before the 90s, the band consisted of key members and teenage couple Rachel Goswell and Neil Halstead, in addition to a revolving lineup that became more consistent over time. The band experienced early success and got recognition for being a great shoegaze band. Unfortunately, they lost the attention almost as quickly as they gained it, with the rise of more popular genres of music like brit-pop and grunge. Their one shot at appealing to an ever more critical audience and press was their second album, Souvlaki. And if facing pressure from their label and press wasn't enough, the band was about to collapse. Goswell and Halstead broke up their relationship just before they started to work on the album. And neither of them knew how to function as a newly separated couple in a professional band. Because of this, making Souvlaki led to isolation, even bigger letdowns, unexpected collaborations, and a new beginning. All this came together in a record that keeps on surprising you every single time you press play. And as I'll try to prove in this video, there's no such thing as bad timing for a timeless record. I'm Lee from Lee Likes Music, and this is the history, sounds, and riffs of Slowdive's Souvlaki. Slowdive was formed in Reading, England by vocalists and guitarists Rachel Goswell and Neil Halstead in 1989. The two of them had been friends since the age of 6 and decided to form an indie band during one of their youth group meetings at their local school. They attended this every Sunday as teenagers, and together with bassists Mike Cottle and drummer Adrian Sell, they were first known as Pumpkin Fairies. They later disbanded, but soon regrouped as Slowdive. At that point, they got Nick Chaplin on bass and Christian Saville as third guitarist. And on drums, there's been a handful of people that have stepped in, Simon Scott being the most permanent and current drummer. The name Slowdive partly came from a dream that Chaplin had, as well as a conversation he had with Goswell. She was the one who suggested Slowdive as a band name, inspired by the Susie and the Banshees song by the same name. They recorded a demo, played some shows, and were very lucky to get signed to Creation Records very early on. This was a big deal because many of their favorite bands, such as House of Love, Ride, and My Bloody Valentine, had all signed to this record label. They released their self-titled EP in November of 1990, which was a more polished version of the original demo. They released the Morning Rise EP in February of 1991, and then the Holding Our Breath EP in June later that year. By this point, they'd already been tagged as one of the more interesting shoegaze bands in the Thames Valley music scene by music publications. Unfortunately, this didn't last very long. Their debut full-length album, Just for a Day, was recorded in a 6-week cannabis-indulgent period, and it managed to hit the top 10 of the UK album charts. But despite of a good ranking, it was met by a boatload of negative criticism. The landscape of music and media consumption changed rapidly at the time. Grunge and brit-pop was in, shoegaze was out. But the band didn't give up. During the rest of 1991 and into 92, they first toured the UK, then the US. They released Blue Day, a compilation album of their early EP material. They also started to work on material for a new full-length album. But with the negative feedback they got from the press and the pressure from their label to create a hit record, making a new one didn't come easy. In an interview with Simon Scott on the Drowned in Sound blog, he commented on how the negative feedback affected them. We were all teenagers at the time, and we couldn't understand why people were so outraged by our sound. Now, for their second full-length album, they had a collection of 40 songs at some point, but they decided to tweak and change these songs continuously because of a growing feeling of self-doubt. Many of these early songs took inspiration from the
sound of Joy Division and David Bowie's Berlin trilogy. And what they wanted to do was they wanted to create the feeling of being a band for the first time again. And so they decided to look back at all the things they really enjoyed about music up until that point. I think it would be really interesting to hear what these songs actually sounded like. Unfortunately, the band decided to scratch all of them and start from the beginning because Alan McGee, the head of Creation Records, decided they just weren't good enough.
They're crap. Crap, mega crap.
Halstead expressed how they could have spent their time a little differently in an interview he did with Drowned in Sound. We wanted to make a pop record, but it took a while to record. I remember going to start the record in a studio in Bath. Spiritualized had just been there and left a huge Scalextrics in the live room. I remember thinking this was the height of indulgence. Ironically, we scrapped everything we recorded. We had to start the record again back in Oxfordshire. We should have just played with the Scalextrics for a month.
Went back to England, they wanted to get in touch with Brian Eno because they wanted him to produce the album. Brian Eno was game, but he didn't want to produce the album. He wanted to be a collaborator and a part of the creative process for the album. And that's when he arranged for him and Halstead to get together in the studio.
The first thing Eno did was to rip the clock off of the wall and put it by the recording desk in front of him. Eno then asked Halstead to play guitar, and they'd record in sections of 10 minutes per take. And as time would tell, it turned into a fruitful collaboration.
2 songs came out of the sessions, Sing, which was co-written with Eno, and Here She Comes, where Eno played keyboards. It's worthy to mention here that Halstead became way more interested in ambient and electronic music from this point onwards. The ironic part here is that Halstead had no idea of what Brian Eno was known for other than his collaborations with Bowie at the time. Eno is the quote-unquote godfather of ambient music, and the fact that he was ignorant of this might have helped him keep his nerves cool in the studio.
Now, it wasn't just the negative reviews and criticism from fellow bands and publications that made the creation of the second record difficult. Halstead and Goswell had been in a relationship for a while, but decided to break up right before the making of Souvlaki. The situation of still being in a band together wasn't easy for them, and that often brought the process to a halt, especially since Halstead was the creative leader of the band. In the summer of '92, their manager suggested that he could stay at a Welsh cottage for some time to work things out. Although he didn't like the idea to begin with, Halstead agreed to do it. He brought a 4-track recorder with him and was left to himself for 2 weeks. This brief period of isolation and reflection was also fruitful. When he returned to the studio, he had ideas for songs like Dagger, Machine Gun, and 40 Days. Songs that had lyrical references to his relationship with Goswell and the living conditions in Wales.
The wheels were finally turning, the pop record started to take shape, and the name of it was gonna be Souvlaki. It's a reference to the American comedy act The Jerky Boys and one of their phone call skits. It's quite a comedic reference compared to all the sad lyrical matter that you'll find on many of the songs on the album.
I'm not a black.
So what are you?
I'm a Greek.
You're Greek? My wife she'll suck your like Souvlaki.
It peaked at number 51 on the UK album charts, and it wasn't until many years later that people started to appreciate the album for what it was. Today, it's hailed by many as one of the seminal albums of the shoegaze and dream pop genres, something it definitely deserves in my opinion.
I personally think this album has a very unique and melancholic sound. There's a lot of variety in here too. You have the typical shoegaze effect-drenched songs like Machine Gun and 40 Days. Then you find instrumentally sparse and calm songs like Dagger and Here She Comes. And if that wasn't enough, you have these songs that are really experimental and out there. Take Sing, for example. This song has way more in common with trip hop than shoegaze, simply because of the repetitive drum pattern and also the focus on ambient sounds.
As you can see, there's just so much to explore here. But for a moment, I would love to talk about the first track of the record, Alison. It's one of the band's most celebrated songs for good reason. It's got an uplifting, summery melody, the lyrics are humorous and charming, and it provides an ending to the story of this album. Halstead came into the studio one day having shaved his head. The other band members were surprised. In addition to the brand new haircut, he had a brand new song and a brand new girlfriend, Alison. As you can see during the second chorus, it's a song about love, feeling lost, and doing drugs. A song about a young couple trying to escape their immediate surroundings, and successfully doing so, it seems. I think the music in the song perfectly reflects that, with the jangly guitars, marching drums, and mellow vocal performance.
So in the beginning it starts with this A chord, and from there it's kind of picking singular notes out from that chord and around the chord like this. And a little bend there as well, as you can hear. It plays this A chord once again, but then it quickly moves to this very dissonant chord, which consists of a G sharp, C, and F sharp. And again, there's a few notes from outside of this chord that's being played right after you play it, like this.
Now, I have to admit that I'm still very uneducated when it comes to guitar pedals and effects. And for that reason, I asked Luca from the Shoegaze YouTube channel Pedal Partners if he wanted to, first of all, help me create a cover of Alison, but also to explain how he managed to recreate the sound with the use of effect pedals.
The original song, there's like the arpeggiated guitar part, and then there's the effects side of things. So the effects side of things, I think it would have been probably Christian Saville that did that. He does it live at least. Basically having guitars just drowned in reverb. But he's got loads of different other effects going into that reverb. So he's got like delays and there's lots of modulation going on, which is really cool. I actually used my Pedal Partners realizer for the reverb side of things because it's got the soft focus patch that the band actually used at the time, which is, I think it was in the Yamaha FX 500, I think there's a soft focus patch. Basically just a bunch of different modulations, reverbs, and delay. I was using the Jazzmaster. Yeah, the Jazzmaster, the Fender Jazzmaster, great guitar.
Now, I want to give a big thanks to Luca and Coen, the guys who helped me make the cover of Alison for this video. Luca runs a channel called Pedal Partners. It's a fucking amazing channel dedicated to shoegaze, effect pedals, and writing music. I've been watching their videos for quite a long time now, and I highly recommend checking them out if you're into that type of music. You'll find a link to his channel in the description below. Coen, on the other hand, is an experienced and talented drummer. He runs a channel called The Undercover Scene, where he creates drum covers of songs from bands, actually some of my favorite bands like Foo Fighters, Muse, and Red Hot Chili Peppers, just to mention a few. Really cool guy, and I highly recommend checking out his channel as well if you're a drummer or just like to watch drum covers. Links are in the description below.
In the end, I want to conclude by saying that Slowdive is a band with a history and sound unlike any other. They faced a lot of tension, both internally and externally, but they kept on going and created Souvlaki. And as time would tell, there was no such thing as bad timing for a timeless album. I'm Lee from Lee Likes Music. Thank you for watching.
By the way, if you want to practice guitar every day but keep procrastinating, I might have something that can help. Each month, I do a 30-day guitar challenge through my Patreon page, where we keep each other accountable to learning one song for 30 days.
Hey, this is Mornay. I'm from Cape Town, South Africa, and I ended up taking Lee's guitar challenge, and I have to say, I've been playing every day. I've been improving a lot.
I really like this challenge because I got to see my progress and the other guy's progress on video.
It was a pretty good experience for me.
So if that's something for you, make sure you sign up before June 21st. There's only 5 spots available, so make sure you sign up for this right now if you want to be a part of it.